Now that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is the difference between a team that knows how to be good and a team that wants to be good. And the reason why I put Game of the Season on the thumbnail is just because you have a game that wasn't decided by under a kick doesn't mean it wasn't an epic spectacle to watch, which this was. So I definitely think Geelong should gain some admirers from this. 5 goals down interstate is no easy feat no matter who you're playing, let alone the most potent offense in the AFL and the leakiest defense, effectively amongst all the good teams, of course. We'll talk about that a little bit later on with the Crows. But they were fantastic. David King said it really well that it was 5 goals the margin near half-time. It could have been 10 if Adelaide had that ability to put their foot on the throat. They didn't. The Cats kicked the last 2 or 3 of the first half, I should say, or the second quarter. And all of a sudden it was game on. And then when the game got tougher, the legs got heavier, the Crows folded. Now, they obviously folded because of the 5-day break, the travel with the Gold Coast, which is why I don't hope that Adelaide lose too many admirers here. Whatever you thought of the Crows going in, I think it should be enhanced a little bit, don't get me wrong. They'll be disappointed with a couple of senior players, I'm sure, for their lack of impact on the game. But overall, they're 3-2, and yet I still feel really good about the Crows, and I think Crows fans should do the same. Yes, the Ollie Dempsey decision should not have been a mark. Didn't cost you the game this time. I can understand you being really pissed off with the umpiring fraternity, though. I'm truly with you. And Chris Scott figured out that the kicking game wasn't working. The overlap handballing was, and I loved what he did in terms of having their key defenders effectively locked down instead of playing zone. It looked like so much of that first half, especially the second quarter when Darcy Fogarty was going nuts. It just looked like it was going to be Blitzarves as that secondary forward. Zach Guthrie was trying to get a little bit higher up the ground. That just wasn't working in the slightest. They eventually had Connor O'Sullivan, outside of the last 10 minutes, be your deepest defender and effectively try to stop the Crows from even getting to that zone. It worked brilliantly, and in-game, guys like Chris Scott, it's why Hawthorn fans are obsessed with Sam Mitchell. It is why Damien Hardwick is going to have such an awesome impact at the Gold Coast, and he already is, because in-game, when things aren't going your way, they're able to make changes. I'm obsessed with Dennis Pagan's quote when he said, coaching is a lot easier when you're 2 goals down at halftime than 2 goals up, because when you're up, you're afraid to make change to create a jinx, and when you're 2 goals down, no one gives a damn if it extends out to 6 goals at 3/4 time, so take as many damn risks as you want. There's a little bit of paraphrasing in there, but the overall sentiment I agree with in a big way. Chris Scott was able to be perhaps a little bit more experimental than Matty Nicks was because they had a lead to chase down. You can throw caution to the wind when you're batting second, especially if the run rate is 12 and over. Have a swing. Ben Stokes at Headingley, a great example. But let's highlight some of the Cats because we like starting with the winners. So the potency of the forward line is going to be key here. So let's start with Danger, who just should get 2 or 3 votes in this game, depending on where you see their number 9, but we'll talk about him a little bit later on. Danger was just epic in this game. The only thing that I would ask, the only negative on Danger's game is actually not his fault. He's not Lee Matthews. Stop comparing them. Midfielders have gone forward before. They may not have had this impact, I understand that. But for crying out loud, can we not just watch and appreciate what Danger is doing without trying to bring in the comparison game? Does my fucking head in. Stop doing it. Thanks, media. Back to Danger. The reason why the Dangerfield matchup is going to be so pivotal for opposition sides moving forward is because he will kill you in one facet or another. He is such a vertical threat, especially in the air, of course, that you can't have a guy that can't stand back shoulder, although you still are going to need a guy who is really good below his knees, and that combination with Jeremy Cameron is going to be dangerous. Nick Murray being out was a bigger impact on the Crows than you think, because he would have been the matchup for Cameron. Michael Annie should have gone to Dangerfield. That would have made more sense. If you're not aware of Nick Murray's impact on this defensive group, I don't just think you're watching him enough or Adelaide enough. He is vital to that back six, and matchup-wise, that would have worked brilliantly. I thought Michael Annie's work on Jezza for the first half was enormous, and then Geelong kicked into gear in that second half, and look, not too many defenders in the competition would have been able to shut down Geelong's movement. They just wouldn't have. But the Cats did an extraordinary job of conceding just 28 points in the second half, and I actually think of the last 64 minutes of the game, they only conceded 29 points. So they did really well there in the back end of this game to shut down Adelaide's forwards. Zach Guthrie and Lawson Humphreys kind of had mirrored halves, I suppose. Guthrie had to play a more back shoulder role than Humphreys did, but as Geelong's ball movement opened up, a few more 1-2s came into play. Then the Humphreys kicking did get replaced by Guthrie's handball movement, and the way he is able to just beat Tom Stewart off Timu, and I mean that in a very respectful way, was just awesome. And a lot of you guys in a couple of comment sections on a couple of different videos are pointing out how good his year has been, and if I have not brought that up enough, my apologies to Zach, because he has been awesome. And you're talking about jumper number changeovers. I have glazed Tom Stewart's taking of Corey Enright's 44. Zach Guthrie's 39 from Darren Milburn is up there as well. Enormous he was. I don't think I've seen Tom Atkins play a more important defensive midfielder role here. The amount of pressure acts that he was able to instill on Jordan Dawson especially was fantastic. Jezza, of course, in that second half took the absolute snake's hiss. As we know, he was able to be the major benefactor of Geelong's better ball movement in the second half. And Bailey Smith is a genuine freak, and Max Holmes was the best player on the ground. Probably. You've probably got 4 players to choose from there. One of them is going to be unlucky not to get a Brownlow vote. As good as Isaac Rankin was, he's probably not getting one. The Cats were incredible, though. The numbers looked pretty good. The way they were executing their game plan in the second half was frightening. Stock in Geelong, still looking really good. And then to the Crows, and I genuinely don't want this to be loss bashing or losing team bashing, because they didn't really do a lot wrong. We know they ran out of legs. Again, the concern for the Crows wasn't really the way that they played, but if you go the difference in the coaching box, and I'm not trying to slag Matty Nix here, but it just looked like they did nothing different fundamentally across the board. Zach Taylor had a really good impact when he came on, but he came back on and tagged Bailey Smith as the sub. I know it's because they were tired. I understand that. If this was like a one-off occurrence, then we'd go, they tried their guts out. They were 3 goals short of one of the better teams in the comp. And we would all cop that. I know that. But if we're going to ignore, or not ignore, but if we're going to acknowledge that there are games that Adelaide have lost because of umpiring decisions, we have to acknowledge there are games that are lost because they won't be able to react quicker in time. And that's been a problem for Matty Nix. When opposition teams have been able to get a run on against the Crows, there has been no real way of stopping them. They kicked 13 of the last 18 goals, did the Cats. And that's partially on the coach. But overall, Isaac Rankin was the best player on the ground. He looked dangerous around every stoppage. And in terms of the players that kind of had nightmares, Luke Nankervis probably had a night that he would rather forget, to be honest. But my God, Jordan Dawson and Mitch Hinge, 2 players that I love. And I love left footers. I love midfielders. I love halfback flankers. I love smooth movers. They're all of those things, and they couldn't kick a fat guy in a fucking street fight. Like, come on, boys. You're better than this. I know you are. I don't want to let you off the hook, but I'm not going to hold a grudge against you long term. That's kind of where I sit with this, to be perfectly honest. Poor Joshy Worrell was kind of in the weeds, to be honest, with Cameron and Dangerfield, depending on who he was on at the time. So hopefully he can wipe that slate clean. What I'm not forgiving is Rory Laird first and foremost, and then every other Crow that went through this. Geelong had 6 smothers in their forward 50. 6. 4 of them were on the mark. So if they're in general play, you're just trying to rush the kick out, I understand. That is forgivable. It's a high-pressure game. Geelong's pressure in the second half was elite. 4 times they kicked into the man on the mark in their defensive 50. Rory Laird did it twice. Not copping that. Not copping it in the slightest. There were actually 7 smothers inside forward 50s in this game. 6 of them turned into scores. 5 goals, 1 combined. So there you go. But I really enjoyed this game. I hope you did as well. There are some key takeaways from this game. But overall, I hope you enjoyed yourselves. I know Crows fans wouldn't have, Geelong fans would have loved it, and as a neutral, I fuck with this. Bring on finals if this is what we're going to expect, and bring on gather round if this is what we're going to get as well. So fingers crossed you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. I will be checking in with you sporadically across the weekend. Can't wait to see my Hawks back in action. Hope you are having a good week. I'll see you in the next video. Love you all. Goodbye.